We're all living in a world gone geek. It's time to geek hard or go home. The podcast is real. Here's your host, Grounded Geek.
Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of World Gone Geek. The podcast is real because here we are. I'm Jeff, aka Grounded Geek, and I'm solo right now because due to some technical difficulties, the actual intro and outro that we recorded can't be used in this episode for some reason. So here I am doing the intro outro without my good friends and confidants, Utah and Aaliyah. They are not here, unfortunately, but they are in this interview that you're about to see. So don't worry, they're still here. And they'll be back in future episodes. But for tonight, I'm recording the intro and outro so that we can get this episode out to you. And this great interview with none other than the iconic Stephanie Williams, writer for DC and Marvel. You're going to love this interview. You're going to want to check it out. Before we do that, I do want to thank Sony Pictures for helping bring this episode to life with a new movie that they've got out called One of Them Days. Now, it is certified fresh and verified hot on Rotten Tomatoes right now, and it's available in theaters and on digital. Keke Palmer and SZA star as best friends and roommates, Drew and Alyssa, and they find themselves in a comical race against the clock after Alyssa's boyfriend blows their rent money. With eviction looming, they'll do whatever it takes to stay afloat and keep their friendship intact. You don't want to miss One of Them Days from Sony Pictures Home Entertainment on digital now, rated R. And we're going to try to give away a copy of that. All you have to do to get a digital copy of that, or at least be eligible to win a digital copy, go to our Instagram page, scroll through the profile. When you see Keke Palmer and SZA in one of the pictures there, I didn't take that picture. That's not a normal Instagram picture. It's actually the poster from this movie. I don't know them, so I never took that picture. But it is available there. You're going to see it. Click on that picture, like and comment, and that is where we will draw a winner from to decide who's going to get that digital copy. So go check out that film today. Check out our Instagram at World Gone Geek. Like and comment, and you have a chance to win the movie. One of Them Days from Sony Pictures Home Entertainment. Another thing I want to make sure that we mention, as most of you know, if you followed us at all, you know World Gone Geek, really, really passionate about using our powers for good, right? We want to do charity work. We want to do other types of philanthropy, things that we can use our geek passions to make a difference in the world. And last time we did that was back in November. We did Extra Life, a 24-hour video game marathon to raise money for rainbow babies in Children's Hospital. Well, in just a few days, on March 7th, I will be, for the 14th time, shaving my head in honor of St. Baldrick's Day. And that's the St. Baldrick's Foundation, the foundation that raises absolutely crucial funding for pediatric cancer research. You would be surprised that how little federal money goes to pediatric cancer research. The cancer research is very important across the board, and there is federal funds that are taking care of that. But our most vulnerable group of patients are obviously children, and they unfortunately get the least amount of funding. And so it's crucial that St. Baldrick's and some of these other organizations are raising funds that are actually finding treatments and cures. And if you've watched the show at all or listened to the podcast or know me personally, you know that we dealt with that during the pandemic. My daughter was diagnosed with cancer. Thank God she is cancer-free today. And that is really because there are treatments that exist because of the type of funding that St. Baldrick's is involved in. So March 7th, shaving my head for St. Baldrick's. You can be a part of that two ways. One, if you're in the Cleveland area, we'd love for you to come out to Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. You can sign up, shave your own head, raise some money, and in solidarity with the kids there, go bald for a cause. That's what I'm going to do. If not, you can donate, and we'll have that in the show notes, a way for you to donate to that cause, to see the hair go. Probably doing most of the beard too, if we can raise enough. I'm taking bids. If somebody wants to bid on the beard, I'm interested to see how much we can raise just to get rid of the whole beard. Actually, I don't know how to take it back. There's no way my wife would let me do the whole beard, but I can get rid of most of it. Like, we'll go down really far. This is my beard grown out for Santa over the December month. It's time for it to go. If you donate, we could see that happen. So March 7th, St. Baldrick's, check it out. Show notes. There's a link. You can donate there or coming out to Rainbow and join us for that great event I'll be emceeing again. 14 years in a row that we've done this, and I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop until there's no hair up there left to shave, which right now it's crazy. I mean, look at this. It's going crazy. You guys got to donate so that hair goes away. So please do that. But I'm going to keep shaving it as long as there's hair to shave or until there is no more cancer, whichever comes first. So we'll see what happens there. But it's a great cause. Check it out. All right, let's get right into this episode because I'm so excited to present it to you. Again, it's Stephanie Williams, and it's going on right now. Today, we're thrilled to be joined by comic writer Stephanie Williams, whose groundbreaking work at DC Comics has breathed new life into beloved characters and mythologies. Known for her compelling work on Nubia and the Amazons and her contributions to the Wonder Woman universe, Stephanie has established herself as a vital voice in modern comics, bringing fresh perspectives and rich storytelling to the Amazonian mythology. From her start in indie comics and becoming a prominent voice in mainstream comics, she's helped reshape and expand the DC universe in exciting new ways. Please welcome Stephanie Williams. Welcome to the show.
Hello. That is one hell of an intro. Thank you.
No, hey, I am so grateful and so excited. I've been so pumped. In fact, one of the main reasons I told you we canceled this interview before and pushed it out because two reasons. One, I had some stuff going on, but also both of them couldn't make it. And I wanted them to be here for this because I think this is going to be, I think you're one of the coolest guests we've ever had on the show. And I'm really excited to talk to you and get to know more about you. For a little backstory, a little history for these folks. So I bumped into you at Fan Expo, Cleveland here. And you were had copies of Nubia, Queen of the Amazons,
yeah,
for sale here. And you were nice enough to sign it. So I got a little signed copy. This is a little nice. You usually just show and tell, but today I get to do it.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Stephanie, but if you notice also Jay Lee,
Yes.
because that artwork is phenomenal. Is that not just like a gorgeous cover?
It is, like my very first like big con was Emerald City, and I was sitting next to Jay Lee. And this I think only had like maybe one issue of Nubia out at the time. And he was just such a sweet guy. And I remember exchanging information with the woman that was working with him. And I was like, yeah, if he's ever interested in a cover, not thinking that anything would actually happen. And then something happened. I was like, oh,
Wow.
thank you so much, Jay Lee, for making this beautiful cover. He's an amazing artist.
He sure is.
Even
He's
better,
one of my
he's annoying.
favorites. He's truly one of my favorites. One of the guys I got tons of autographs. I got other stuff from him as well when I was there. So it was fantastic to just combine. I got to talk to you and find out about this new comic. So let's start from the beginning, though. I want people to kind of get a sense of who you are. Obviously, you're working. You write independently, but you're doing some stuff for DC, in not just anything in DC, but one of the top three, the big three, of the DC universe.
Yeah.
I guess that's the big three, right? Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman.
And Wonder Woman, yeah. Those are the big three.
There are others that are, people think are cool, but those are the three everybody knows.
I mean,
Doesn't
Green
matter if you're a
Lantern.
Marvel fan.
I've
never been a huge fan.
Sometimes.
I don't want to. I don't know, I'm going to make people mad. I've never been a huge fan of Green Lantern. It's just, I don't know what it is. I like him. I just, the power is weird to me. Like he can just make anything with a ring. Anyway, but the big three, I love those guys. But I have not been hugely familiar with Wonder Woman until actually meeting you and finding out what you're doing with the comic and the directions that you've taken it. And then I went through and read like the entire run that you've done for that. Also found out that you wrote one of the stories in one of my other favorite comics, which is the Alien franchise.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Amazing.
What is blood? Sorry to say blood, sweat, and tears.
I mean, it could be, but
Black,
yeah.
white, and
Red,
black,
white, and blood.
red. Red, that's what it is. Red, white, and blood. Thank you. It's one of my favorites, and I couldn't think of the name of it. I mean, the Alien franchise, not that particular, but yeah. And so, literally, after I got home from Fan Expo, I realized that you were in that comic too, and I should have brought that to have you sign. So I was like, dog.
That's all right.
Anyway, but you got into comic writing in a fairly unique way. Tell people what you were doing before all of this started happening for you.
Yeah. So I was an electron microscopist, some big science title name, but exactly. We worked alongside pathologists and other researchers, and basically, you came in for like a biopsy or, let's say, clinical trials were like being ran. Then I would get your tissue and then do all this amazing stuff in this micro in this machine called an ultra microtome. So very hand-eye coordinated type of thing. And then I would take pictures. So I was an artist before I was a writer. There was a lot of medical pictures. And I actually took some pretty damn good pictures too.
I
So
bet.
I was doing that and then slowly transitioned to freelance writing on the side. So writing for like Sci-Fi Wire, Nerdist, IGN, and all those places. Like I would literally read and also write in between experiments, which was a nice thing. And eventually, I ended up leaving that job. As much as I loved it, my boss sucked, and she was not
Oh,
retiring anytime soon. So it was either me or her, and I was like, "Well, I guess it's gonna have to be me." So I ended up leaving and just really trying to focus on the freelance writing as much as I could. So I worked like a little part-time job, and then ended up leaving that and like driving Lyft so that I could pay for the comics that I started having commission other artists to make. And I ran a Kickstarter for Living Heroes, and that like fully funded at the top of 2020 before the pandemic kicked off. And the next thing I knew, by the end of the year, Marvel had finally knocked on my door and said, "Hey, do you want to take part in this anthology for Black History Month?" And I was like, "I absolutely do." So I wrote a 2-page Monica Rambeau story, and then I think the week that that came out, I actually spoke to the editor at DC about Wonder Woman, and had no idea that I would be writing Nubia. I just thought I was doing like an anthology thing,
like
and
a
Yeah.
yeah.
next thing I knew, doing like a whole comic series, which was quite the transition. Because before I was doing a lot of 1 to 4 page comics, nothing that was like 20 pages or anything like that. But the little stuff did pay off.
That's awesome. And before we get, I mean, obviously, I want to talk about Wonder Woman, but tell people about Living Heroes
Oh,
because
yeah, yeah. So
yeah,
that did just kinda gloss over that. Living
yeah, yeah.
Heroes was, something that came to me while I was, smoking a little weed and rewatching, Living Single and reading the
Ah.
Phoenix Saga at the same time. So all of this is going on, and I got to the part where Misty Knight and Jean Grey, like, they're roommates, but Jean Grey dies, and the Phoenix Force isn't paying rent, and rent is expensive even back then. So I thought about where would Misty live, and I remember Storm had ties to Harlem thanks to her father. So I was like, what if she owned a brownstone? And then Missy moved in, and then it just all kinda came together, and of course, because She-Hulk is so very obviously Maxine, because 'cause they're both lawyers, and they both eat a lot too, so that made sense. And next thing I knew, I hit up Erin O'Neil Jones to see if, she would be interested in putting this together, and she was. We put out 1 page, it did very well. We put out a 2nd page at the top of the new year in 2020, and then next thing I knew, I was putting together a Kickstarter campaign. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I just knew I was hoping that people would, fund the project, and they did.
So are you basically waiting for the call from Disney Plus now for the animated
I
series?
have tried to pitch, Living Heroes, since now working with Marvel as, like, an Infinity comic or something, and
Oh,
so far,
yeah.
no, but I'm hoping one day.
That's
Or
fun.
I'll just take the idea and, like, just do something different with it, get rid of their characters and insert my own. Because I think the appeal there for a lot of folks is just, this meeting of 2 different worlds. So, this very popular Black sitcom and characters that they're familiar with. So I can always create new characters, and they'll still have that familiarity of living single.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
really
that's
good.
true. But I imagine there's rights involved
Absolutely.
if they did want to do a show like
Oh,
that.
I mean,
rights
but
But no
Disney
one.
owns
rights.
everything, so, like, they own Fox,
Right.
which has Living Single, so I
Mm,
someone could figure something
Oh,
out.
that's true.
Yeah.
You're right. So
It's it
hey,
it would be
it's
so
all
easy. It would be
it's
so easy for
yeah, it's
somebody
all
to
coming together.
Yeah.
I got my hopes up for you. I think that would be hilarious.
Thank
That would be
you.
fantastic. Um, but would it be live action or would it be animated?
I
I
would
feel
love
like animated.
animated, that's just
Yeah,
why
always my
not
go-to.
both?
Yeah. And you could
That's
just
the
get
thing
away well,
nowadays.
not get away with anything, but I just feel like for the physical comedy that I would like to see in this, animation would be best.
What if you got some of the original actresses to voice the
That would be
characters? Like, who would
amazing.
that would
who
be
would voice
phenomenal.
that'd be
who?
incredible.
I mean, Erica Alexander, like, voicing She-Hulk, like, yes, give me
Oh,
that.
come on now.
Queen
Come on
Latifah
now.
voicing Monica Rambeau, yes, give me that. Yes, I want it. I want it now.
That would be
We need
that
to
would be
all
pretty cool.
we need to all speak it and manifest it because this sounds
Yes.
hilarious.
Yeah. Well, once this episode airs, and then everybody in the world will know and get the no, I'm just kidding.
Correct.
Nobody watches this. But I'm just playing. But no, that's fantastic. But yeah, so I can't, and it's just, to me, it just blows my mind. Like, you're literally writing a couple of pages for Marvel, and the next thing you know, Wonder Woman
Yeah.
is now. And tell me a little bit about how that felt. Well, no, let's go even further back.
Yeah.
So obviously, like, when did you? Thanks, Utah, for the demonstration.
You're welcome.
When did you first start getting into comics? Like, was Wonder Woman something that you read back in the day? Like, what was your first entry in the comics?
So my entry into comics was actually the Sunday Funnies. And then from there, the Dollar Tree used to sell actually really good quality books. They kind of do now, but not really. You can find anything from like these little books that they would have of, like, all the Jurassic Park dinosaurs. They would have like X-Men, all the heroes, all the villains. And they also would have these these like compendiums of Sunday Funnies, and Hagar the Horrible was one of them. I don't know, I was like 7. So I just picked this up just randomly, just to get something, and I just read it, but none of the jokes landed. Why would I know these
Aw.
things? But I just knew that I like looking at it. So from there, then came some Marvel stuff, and again, not even at a comic book store. This was at a thrift shop that I picked this issue up at, and it was like Avengers 371 or 361. But in it, we're in the middle of I don't know what they got going on, but there's the Black Knight, Cersei, and Crystal. They got like this throuple thing going on because
Oh.
Black Knight is supposed to be with Cersei, but that's really just like a thing that they're doing because he really loves Crystal. Vision is there, and he's been set to reset the factory mode, so he's white, and sad, or doesn't know that he's sad, but he's trying to
Yeah.
process these feelings because
Oh,
him and
Vision.
Wanda are, like, not together anymore. It's a mess. But I bring it up because I think that was the moment that I saw superhero comics, and I was like, "Oh, this is kinda like the soap operas that my grandmother and my mom enjoy, but they're wearing spandex." Like,
Yeah.
I know what this world is like. So that got me on board, and then finally Archie Comics sealed the deal for me because they had the Archie
Oh.
Digest at the front at the
Mhm.
grocery store, and it was easy for me to just pluck it and put it in between the eggs and, go about my business. So that's kinda how I ended up getting into comics.
Location,
Awesome. Well, so
location, location.
Yeah, they
Mhm.
did
Never at a comic book store. It's funny, I didn't actually start shopping at comic book stores until I was in my 20s, and, like, late 20s at that.
so when they offered you Wonder Woman, like, how much of that mythology did you
Oh.
already know? Like, did you have to go back and, like, read tons of, like, what was your preparation for that?
I read so much, and I didn't just read DC stuff. So I started, of course, with Joyce Perez, because I felt like that was the transition from the Amazons looking pretty homogenous, and by that, very white, to we're finally seeing some more like color diversity on that island. Also, just George and his team, they just had just such a beautiful understanding of the Amazons and who they are, and I figured if I was going to have to write something about Nubia, that I didn't want her to be a carbon copy of Diana, so I need to find out, like, well, who are the Amazons at their core? And I felt like his run best depicted that, and then, of course, on to Greg Rucka. I did read some John Byrne because I know, but man,
You kinda had
that
to.
guy and his art, and when it comes to fashion, it just pulls me in every time. So so a little bit of that, and then outside of comics, Madeline Miller's Cersei, that is something that I cannot praise enough.
Oh.
That is a book that was recommended to me by a friend named Aaron Reese, and he's like, "I just think that you should read this because you will find some way to, like, apply this to what you're working on." And I did, because in that book, the women are, protagonists, antagonists, everybody in between, and I knew that for, Nubia and her Amazons, like, this story was gonna take place all in Themyscira. So what does a story look like that includes Greek mythology where women are the center of that story? And, Madeline Miller Cersei just really drove that point home for me. I also watched 300, not for any inspiration, but I think just to kind of like, I don't know, get myself in the mind frame of that. I watched Troy for the first time. I had never seen Troy.
Oh,
So that was an interesting watch. And what's his name? Oh wow. Why am I forgetting his name?
in
He used to be
in
married to
Troy,
Jennifer Aniston, Mr. and Miss
Brad
Smith,
Brad
Brad
Pitt.
Pitt,
Brad
Jesus
Pitt
Yep.
Christ, yes, wow.
as
It's not that
Achilles.
they look really hot in that. So that was just a
He
ton to watch because of that.
he
Um,
was a good Achilles. Yeah.
yeah, he was a good Achilles. And I think, like, I even might even play Hades. I probably went back. I'm pretty sure I had my husband re-download God of War. So, like,
I love
I
those
just
games.
absorbed as much as I could, and of course, I don't ever need an excuse to watch Justice League or Justice League Unlimited, but that gave me an excuse to go back and
Sure.
rewatch those episodes, specifically the ones that, like, really focus on Diana. So, it was a lot of me doing whatever I could to just kind of, take as much inspiration as I could, and apply it to Nubia and the Amazons.
That's awesome. So so I guess, obviously one of the great things about Nubia is it does provide you talked about how homogenous Wonder Woman used to be, not just Wonder Woman, let's just face it, I
Yeah.
mean comics in
Comic, yeah,
general.
Yeah.
yeah.
So what does it mean to you to know now that this character is so prominent in DC for young girls now that maybe when they were 7 that they can reach out on a thrift store shelf and maybe find
Mhm.
Nubia now?
It is great because, I just found it fascinating that she was a character that was introduced so long ago and really could have
Yeah.
been this premier character for DC, and then they just kinda moved on to Vixen and whoever else.
Yeah.
So to, like, have her come back, the goal there was to have her not go back on the shelf. I'm like, "We're not gonna put in all this work just for her to get shelved again." So it means mission accomplished and that it wasn't too crazy. The ideas that we had and the direction, and how to write Nubia was the correct one. And it was to not make her like just Diana 2.0. Like we already have a Diana. She's amazing. So there can be other women that are just as important, as amazing as her that come with the mascara. And I think Nubia is an excellent example of that. So hopefully we'll get some more, Artemis, Donna Troy. Hell, I want to know more about Philippus. So more
Really?
of them, more prominence outside of just, the women that live on the island that Diana comes from. Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Did
so
And in that run that you did,
1 through
there
4.
oh, you actually introduced a new Wonder Girl
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah.
And I
Yara
read it like
Flor.
several weeks ago. But she's like Brazilian or something like that,
Yeah.
right? Was that
So that Yara Flor is Joelle Jones' creation. So she, so during the time when I took over or started writing Nubia, like Yara Flor was I think her run was just kind of like really getting going. And the same thing with Becky and Michael, who were writing Wonder Woman, the main title at the time. So I don't know, like it all just kind of weirdly worked out that Nubia got kind of shoehorned into like these newer Amazons that are being introduced because the Exposita where Yara Flor comes from, that's all brand new. And I think it was really great to see that, hey, there are Amazons that are not just want the mascara. Of course, we have the Bonda Migdal who have always been there. But to have the Escozita there and like they're on a whole nother continent, that I don't know, like I thought that was really cool. We're really broadening things up, and showing that, is there are Amazons and they're everywhere, so you should be careful. Mhm. Yeah.
I like that.
absolutely? And that was news to me too. Like I said, I mean, I'm a Marvel guy
Mhm.
like through and through, like just from
Make
beginning to
mine
end. I've
Marvel.
always
Yeah.
loved Marvel. 100%. But I've always loved Batman. Like
Yeah.
he's the one DC character that's just like I'm obsessed with. So it's Marvel, and then there's Batman, and then Superman, sorta because I mean I love Christopher Reeve. I was a kid when that movie came out, so Utah and I are old if you haven't noticed.
We're
And
Decent.
so
older than Nubia.
we saw that
Yes.
exact. Actually,
Yes.
you're right
Yeah,
because
Nubia,
she
I
started in
didn't
19.
realize this. 73.
Yeah, 73.
1973. I had
And
no
I
idea she was
had
around for that
no
long.
idea that there were, I mean, like I didn't know much about Wonder Woman at all. And so reading your run in the comics kind of gave me this whole new education on who these characters were. It was, I thought, a great entry point for folks who have never really dealt with
Yeah,
Amazons.
thank you.
You're introducing a ton of characters at once. So
Mhm.
I was a little like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
who are all these people?
and there's
But
so
you
many
did,
more.
yeah, but you did such a great job of like by the end of it, like I knew like what who the factions were and how they felt about each other. And I watched them sort of kind of come together because of the I don't want to spoil things for people who haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
Um, because of the, events that are
Mhm.
taking place and they have to stand together for certain things. And anyway, yeah, I thought it was great as someone who, again, admittedly is not necessarily. I mean, I started to say I'm not a Wonder Woman fan, but man, I love Linda Carter, Wonder Woman back in the day.
well, I mean,
But that was Wonder Woman to me. That's that
yeah,
TV show. I wasn't into the comics, but
yeah.
now I'm interested. Like that's a world I didn't know was so deep and like just full of
Yeah.
mythology and lore. It's really cool.
And hopefully, I feel like DC is continuing to like give focus to that area, especially with Absolute Wonder Woman and like what Kelly Thompson is doing with that.
Yeah.
What Count Tom King has been doing with the current Wonder Woman run, and the fact that every time I see like a new random page posted from DC Comic, I see Nubia in it, and it's not just Wonder Woman comics. Like I think she popped up in Green Lantern once, Flash, all these other spaces, which I'm
Nice.
like, yes, this is what should be happening.
Yeah. And will that be harder though now that she's queen? Like that she's got responsibilities back on the island? She won't be able to wander around the world like Diana
Well,
does?
it could be, for a few of the things that I pitched to DC and how to continue and then show her kind of balancing that and taking inspiration from, Coates's run of Black Panther and just
I
the
was
way that
about to
that character's been treated.
Mhm.
Yes, there are many things that she could get into even though she's queen. And I don't know, eventually I see that maybe not her her remaining queen, but, like, other things happening where she gets something similar to, like, a Wonder Woman title. Mm.
Okay.
It'd be
That's awesome.
nice. We'll see. I don't
Yeah.
wanna spoil
uh,
something I haven't
uh,
written yet, but, you know.
or has she written it?
Or has she? Yes.
I'm
Hmm.
curious. So, like, what is your writing process? We've spoken to a lot of
Yeah.
authors on this, like, throughout our podcast, and they all have different things. Like, they might wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and just,
Okay.
exercise their writing brain. But yeah, I'm curious. Like, what is your writing process? How did you kind of get into that? Have you always been writing?
So I've always been writing, but it was like as a fun on the side thing. Like I was somebody who was doing fanfic before I knew it was fanfic. And I mean, like I really didn't know. Like the December to Remember commercials, where the car commercial. I think I wrote a fanfic once about one of the families. I was like, well, what are their lives like? So
I love that.
random.
Yeah.
So
That's
always
great.
been
I love
writing
it.
on the side. But because I don't know, like, 1, it was a hobby, and 2, I didn't really think it was something that I could make a career out of because it was something that was not stressed to me that you could make a career out of it. So I went the route I love science, so I just went that route, and I would have to write things for that, but it's more like, rigid and logical, so I was still writing, but in a very in the box way.
Right.
Uh, so when I finally started writing, it was actually after having my son. I was like, "Oh, like, let's get back to the creative writing." I was like, "You've brought life into this world, so you can absolutely go back and do this other thing while you're working full time." So my writing process then was chaotic. It was whenever I could. So sometimes it would be a 3 a.m. thing or me waking up early or again, like me writing at work. And then when I left my job and I started doing full-time writing, it was still chaotic, because I hadn't learned my lesson yet. I was still writing whenever, but the last year and a half, 2 years now, my process is pretty much I start the day listening to lo-fi music. I don't know why, like, it just gets me where I need to go. I do work out sometimes in the morning, so on those days that I do, like, I try to write as soon as I get back home to kinda use those endorphins, to get me through. But I don't work the weekends anymore, at least I try not to, but my first 3 years, like, I think I, like, even worked on my birthday, like, I just could not get away from my keyboard, but Now it's just more of a I know that I'm not always gonna feel like doing it, but because deadlines need to be met, bills need to be paid, I gotta figure out how to, like, create a muse, and sometimes that muse is literally, "Girl, this has to be done, so
Mm.
finish it." And knowing that the first draft is gonna be ugly, so, now it's just, like, sitting down and just writing as much as I can, and if I finish it and it looks ugly, that's fine. That's why my editors are there, and or even I can go back through myself and reread it and edit before I send it off.
Mm.
So it's a lot more there's a little bit more of a strategy now than just all willy-nilly like it was. Like, sometimes I would write while I was cooking. It was just whenever.
Oh.
Mm.
Yes. Don't do that anymore. Would not recommend.
Not recommend.
No.
So, what has been your experience? I mean, obviously, I got to meet you at Fan Expo. What has that experience for you been like? I know that you've been at a lot of shows.
Yeah.
I've been, I follow you on Instagram. I see that you're going to these different shows and stuff. What is, meeting the fans? What has that been like for you?
It's amazing, because it helps on the days where I'm just kinda like, "F this, I don't want to do it anymore. Because like, what am I doing this for?" Because I don't know, like, I'm dealing with somebody being a jerk on the internet or just frustrating, period, because, like,
I said I'm
rejection is
sorry. No.
Yeah, right, no, it's okay. But, like, rejection is the name of the game here, so sometimes you're wondering, like, "Well, damn, do I suck?" Or, like, like, "Is am I alright?" But going out and going to the cons is a nice reminder that, 1, people are reading my work, and even if it's just one person that comes up to me and says, "Hey, like, I really love what you did," or, like, "This literally changed my life," like, that to me means so much, and I try to store those so that on the days where I'm just like, "I do not wanna do this,"
Mhm.
I'm like, "No, it is a blessing to be here, I've worked hard to get here, and it's worth it." Also, it's just really cool to be out and talking with folks who I this year I made a bigger deal about walking around the cons when I'm there. A lot of times I just sit at the table, because I don't wanna miss anyone, but I made a conscious effort to be more, I guess, active at the con, which was great because I got
That is
to
cool.
walk around and, like, meet other creators, buy their stuff. Um I don't like, I just actually get the con experience because before I was writing professionally, I like to go to conventions and, like, just be there.
Yeah.
And now because it's a working thing, a lot of times I'll kind of forget that. So, it's been nice to just kinda get around and just connect with people and actually be in community, which I don't know, like, I feel like that's what conventions are supposed to be.
Yeah.
100%.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, jerks on the internet. And I feel like, I want to bring that up because one of the things that we believe here at World Gone Geek, like what we're trying to promote is positivity in the community. There are gonna be things that we don't agree on, and
Yeah.
we don't have to all like the same things. But fandom should be about celebrating the things we do like together, not joining together to denigrate the things we don't.
Right.
Like, what is that?
Yeah.
That's not fandom. That's the opposite. And so, I wonder, like, obviously, you just said you have dealt with, idiots on the internet. Um, what kind of reception, or how do you deal with the folks out there who apparently think that, you know, behind the keyboard they can say whatever they want about whatever it is and share that kind of, vitriol on the internet?
Most of the time I ignore it. I it's like block and go, but every now and again, like you'll come across something that just either catches you on a bad day or just kind of hurts your feelings because you're human. And in those times, like I'll just either screenshot, show a friend, to my husband or whoever, and just kind of talk about it that way instead of going off on the internet or kind of giving that person the attention that they're seeking because that doesn't really serve me. It serves them
Hmm.
because now, they got eyes on them and they can continue to say whatever it is they're saying. But I often try to remind myself that well, if they could do it, then they would be doing it,
Yeah.
but they're not. And I don't mean that in like a cocky sort of way, but like you have no idea how hard it is to get one single issue of a comic out, and this thing that you're nitpicking is like low on the totem pole and also insignificant. And if you only knew just how difficult it is to just get one story out let
Really?
alone many of them, you would probably, I don't know, like you would have a little bit more respect, but I think that's asking too much of anybody today on today's internet.
Especially online, yeah.
Yes. Actually had a guy who over at Heroes Con, I was on a panel with Jean Ha and Colleen Duran and learned that her name was not Duran Duran, both me and Jean Ha, but anyway. And it was a Wonder Woman, it was a Wonder Woman panel, whatever. So we talked and I talked about Nubia and like my inspiration and everything. So the very next day, the guy comes to my table and he's like, I have to tell you that you completely changed my mind about Nubia and like I want to get some books. And he was like, he's like, I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but when DC announced that this book was happening, I just kind of thought it was a cash grab. And I'm like, well, they're a business, so anything they do is a cash grab,
Everything's a
but
cash grab.
Yeah.
I get what you mean. And he also thought that it was just like a black woman, a black Wonder Woman, or Diana
Oh,
2.0 situation. And then after listening to me talk about the character and just the inspiration and all these other things, he was like, "Oh, well, like I didn't know any of that." I'm like, "Well, of course you wouldn't have known any of that because you didn't take the time out to actually find
look,
that." But I'm
yeah.
glad that you were able to get that got through to you during the panel or whatever. And he ended up buying like almost everything off of my table, which was pretty
Nice.
phenomenal. But
That's incredible.
yeah, and I told him like, I appreciate your honesty and like I feel like it'd be nice if we could have more conversations about this because while I think you could have done your due diligence to like not make that assumption, I do understand why you did make that assumption because we're having conversations today about how some of the anthology or for the anthology stories that come out through in different heritage months, so your Black History, your AAIP, uh
Yeah.
Latin heritage, all of those,
All of it.
all
Yeah.
of those that come out, even during Pride Month and we don't see these creators again after they've been tapped for these anthologies and they just kind of disappear. It's like, wait, I thought this person was like really like really talented, but they
Mhm.
go disappear just like those characters of color. So I get it. I get why you would think this was a
Yeah.
non-serious thing, but I'm glad that I was able to change your mind and you show improved with your wallet. And that means everything.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Money
and
talks,
also
right?
I've got to give him kudos to owning up to it too,
Yeah.
because very often you're going to get these people who don't admit that
Mhm.
they're wrong or learn something, and the fact that he came up to you face to face and
Yeah.
actually had that conversation, I think it means a lot to me hearing it. So I mean, the fact that you're changing minds that way, even if it's one by one, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's been some of the folks that come up to me sometimes and tell me how much they like enjoy my work or Nubia, I'm just like, wait, really? Because I'm also in the South. And so like I'll
Oh,
do some conventions in like South Carolina, and there's one that I do called Power Comic Con, and it's in Florence, South Carolina. Really nice city.
hmm.
But like there are a bunch of trucks outside that are lifted, we got flags on
Yeah.
them and all of that. And like you'll have these big burly white guys and they'll come up to me and they'll be like, "Yeah, I really love your work on Nubia." I'm like, "Oh, well, all right. Well, thank
Okay.
you. That is good
Yeah.
to know." But like
Pleasant surprise.
yeah, a little surprised. But if anything, that is just show and prove to me that people just want a good story. And if creators are allowed to and given the support to like deliver that product and get it out to the masses and explain and let the masses know like this is what it is, then there could be so much more success for a lot of these books that end up not doing well because they're not Batman. They're not, and I don't mean no shade. They're not Batman or they're not Iron Man or Thor or or whatever. Like
Mhm.
people
The
want
top tier.
people just want good stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love that.
And I
And
love
what I think,
Batman.
yeah, right? Who doesn't? He's amazing.
He's the best in DC.
Yeah.
The the crazy thing about what you just shared there, though, to me, what I think is the real, like a real important thing was that you had an actual conversation with
Mhm.
Yeah.
someone. Do you know what I mean? There's just not enough of that.
Yeah.
Like we get on the internet, like I said, there people are behind the keyboards to say whatever they want. They can go on, Twitter and Instagram or whatever, and they can comment and say all the things they would never say to your face.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And that's where I think most of the issue. I mean, everybody's leaving Twitter and a lot of it's political. To me, it's not even political. It's just all
You can't
anybody
talk to
wants to
anybody.
do, yeah, is argue or post memes. Like there's no conversations taking place over there anymore. So that's kind of why I'm not really posting as much over there, things like that. But I love that like you literally had a face-to-face conversation with someone and it went exactly as I would expect it to if it's face to face,
Mhm.
right? You can actually share, you see expressions, you understand context and clues. And I love that. I think it's amazing. And that's again, I think why conventions are so important too.
They're so great. You just never know who you're going to meet, and I don't mean that in a celebrity way, like, of course you don't know that, but
Mhm.
it's just the regular everyday people who are just like you, and they just tell you, "Hey, like, this one thing you did, this random thing you did, like, it got me through my day," and, like, that is something that I will never take for granted, and the ability to, like, go out and connect with those people is something that I always cherish. So if I get
Yeah,
invited to a con, I am almost always going because
That's
I live for
great.
those moments.
that's
Love it.
awesome.
Mhm.
Love it.
So we've seen comics, Nubia is a great example of how are becoming increasingly diverse and inclusive in recent years. Although, like I said, 1973, she's first introduced, and then we barely even see or
Yeah.
hear from her over the ensuing decade. Um, but now we're starting to see a little bit more of that. And as someone who's helped contribute to that evolution, how do you see the industry changing? Or what steps do you think still need to happen if there are for the industry to kind of get over that hump and be more inclusive?
I think to just so many
It's a
different
layer. It's
it's
layers.
just a right.
Where to start?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, of course, inviting diverse voices on to talk to write characters other than the ones that they can most identify with.
Sure.
I think I don't know, like an N.K. Jemisin writing Batman, I would love to read something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But, just for these main characters, because a lot of times, you get brought in and you're scared, like, are they only gonna call me for Black History Month, or are they only gonna call me
Mm,
to write this one Black character? Brian Stelfreeze, I've been on several panels with him, stellar guy, amazing artist. But I remember one of the things that he said that he didn't become the Black artist until he worked on Black Panther, which I found fascinating
Oh.
because he's right. Everything that
Huh.
Brian had did prior to that, if you didn't know that Brian Stelfreeze was a Black guy, like, you just would've just assumed something else because of the
mm,
diversity of different things that he's worked on. And then after Black Panther, he was like, "Yeah, that's when I started getting called up more specifically to draw this
Interesting.
Black character or, to work on this book with a Black cast and things like that." I'm like, "Well, yeah, like, that's pretty real," and for a lot of us, that's the experience. You're wondering because I know for me, like, writing Nubia, I was like, will Nubia be the only thing that I write, or will I go I wanna write Vixen, do not get me wrong, but
Mm.
will it just be Nubia? Will it just be Vixen? Will it just be Storm or whatever?" And thankfully, it hasn't. I have gotten a chance to write those characters, but it hasn't just been that.
Mhm.
And, to me, that is a sign that if myself, Preeti, Chibber, she's written Spider-Man, novels and is like right now doing a Agatha Harkness, Infinity comic right now on
Oh, cool.
Marvel, like,
Yes.
Nice.
and she is a woman of color, like, more of that, please.
Yeah.
Like, is Tom King, doing what he is on Wonder Woman? Yes, and no shade to Tom, but it'd be nice if there was, someone else writing Wonder Woman who was a woman, and
yeah.
preferably like a woman of color to just kind of give this other perspective on this character. So I'm not saying that like, let's get all the old white guys out because some of them are really cool, Greg Rucka
Mhm.
included, and I hope that he does not hear this and me refer to him as old guy. But um, just more diverse for Greg Rucka is amazing. But more just put us on books that are not what people are expecting. I think Justina Ireland is gonna be taking over for, Amazing Spider-Man, like, I think she's the first Black woman to ever write,
Oh, cool.
a Spider-Man, well, not a Spider-Man comic, but like an ongoing thing. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
It
Okay.
is cool.
Yeah, I love what you said too. It's like it's not to replace
Yeah.
these people, but it is like you said, it is to give a different perspective because there are some things that um specifically women of color do- can just touch on that
Mhm.
s- I mean even men of color can might not
Yes, there we go.
give a good perspective on. It doesn't necessarily have to just be you know, white women or white men, but
Mhm.
any
Yeah.
side really. So I love that just giving a different perspective. Um some sorry.
I mean, thank you for
Tell him
the cat was
Genesis.
like, "Stop it."
Genesis
Mwah.
is like, yeah, I agree.
That's right. Shout
Gosh,
out by Genesis.
no.
Excellent.
But no, and like, and I've had conversations with, been in the room with some of these guys that I consider greats too, and like some of them will even tell you, like, yes, like, I've had my time in the sun. It's time to let some other fresh voices in. So those guys I really appreciate because they do either step to the side or, suggest and say, hey, I know you want me to write this thing, but I know this other creator who would probably be better and more fresh voice. So like let me bring them in. Mark Wade did that for me for the Batman Superman World's Finest anthology. Well, was ended up being an anthology, but it was the annual. So I got to write
Hmm.
Bumblebee's origin story in that, or a new one for and also for the Absolute Power. Because Mark was like, I don't know what to do with these Amazons, so bring Stephanie, which I appreciated.
I love that. That's fantastic.
So the first step to recovery is, recognizing that you have a problem. So yeah, so
I don't know what to do with these things.
I love it. That's great.
One of the things that I love about following you on Instagram threads and stuff is that you share a lot of this kind of behind the
Mhm.
scenes thoughts and feelings about being a freelance writer and stuff like that. So, I mean, if anybody's out there listening and wants to be a comic writer, the what is it? Blue Sky has your starter list now, I guess, where
Uh-huh.
it's like I think Stephanie should be on
Oh.
there for if you're trying to be a comedy writer, she should be one of those on the list. But or comedy writer, comic
Well, also,
writer is what I meant
Well,
yes.
to
hold
say.
on a second. Hold on a second. I mean,
She's
Living
some comedy
Heroes is
too.
pretty comedic.
Exactly. But I didn't want to limit it to just comedy because obviously comic is what I meant to say. But anyway, but I love some of the stuff that you've shared on there. So if there, are people out there who aspiring comic writers, uh, what kind of advice would you give them? What do you think would have helped you back when you first started? I noticed you share a lot of books and things like that in there
Yeah.
that helped you and writers and stuff like that.
I mean, it's just the most unsexy thing ever, but like actually write the thing. You can't think a thing into existence. And as simple as that sounds, you would be amazed at people not doing, what it is they want to because you're thinking about the whole entire time. I mean, I still do that. But my advice would be to write it down. I don't care how ugly it is. It's better that it is ugly and out than still in your mind and objectively pretty because we don't know. It's just in your mind. Like that's the echo chamber right there. So like get it out and just kind of go from there because you can only get better also by doing the thing and you have to actively do it. And if you're a writer who can't draw like myself, I can draw some things but not enough to like do a comic. um and you want to pair up with an artist, like understand like this is work that they're doing, so they should be compensated fairly. So figure out what that is, and if the thing is that you can't afford it. Well, no, of course you can't afford a 20-page book, but maybe you can afford a page or 2 pages or 3. One that makes it not such a huge commitment for that artist and also not such a huge commitment for yourself because I don't know, you're fresh into this. You might wake up one day and you say, you know what? I don't want to write this 300-page epic anymore. And you're 100 pages in. Then what? So
Yeah.
Then
it is
what?
it is okay to start small. It is okay to start simple, and then build to complexity if you wanna do that, but, that one-page story, you never know, like, you do 20 of those, and then look, now you got a whole zine you can put together, and you can present present them at comic conventions, show them to editors, all of these things. You need to have work there so people can actually know that you can do the thing. You just don't think you can do the thing.
Mm, I love that.
Yeah, that reminds me. I forget who said this, but I remember there's a quote that I always think back to when I'm starting something. It's like you don't know how good something is until you actually try it, you
Mhm.
actually do it. And I think that um, a lot of times, people have fears as to, well,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be good. I don't think anybody's gonna care. But you don't know that until you actually do the thing
No.
and then have something to show. And so, yeah, I think it's a big first fear or first step for a lot of people. And to hear someone in your position say, "Look, you just got to just do it
Yeah.
and find out."
You just
Makes
have to
it, yeah.
find out. Like, you would be amazed at the stuff that I've done where I literally had no idea what I was doing. I just had an idea and a dream and a pen, and then I, like, kinda made it happen, because even, like, with Living Heroes, again, like, I had never ran a Kickstarter before. I
Mm.
didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that what I could do is go look at other Kickstarters that were successful, kinda see, like, what they did, if I was able to, like, contact that person, ask some questions, so that's the other thing, like, we live in an age where you can probably easily find answers to your questions, and it's about asking the right questions, to get the answer that you want, and that just requires you doing the work, which again is not sexy, but it is so important.
Mm,
It's a truth, yeah.
yeah.
And one of the big questions that I think I have, and it probably ties into what you're saying, but imposter syndrome,
Mm,
even like fear, doubt, things of that nature, right? Failure, like,
yeah,
um, can you speak a little bit to that for anyone that's listening as well? Because they're all real things, especially when you're
absolutely.
a writer or even just an artist, creative in general, and
Yeah.
then people trying to take your art, wanting people to take your art seriously. I'm so sorry.
No, it's
Um,
okay.
um,
Don't
but
apologize for your cat.
No, don't ever apologize for your cat. Like,
Never
it's
apologize
literally
for your
okay.
cat.
right, this is not
I mean,
cat
at this
mom
point,
vibes over
Genesis
here.
is I'm gonna list Genesis as one of our co-hosts on
Okay.
the
You,
show
yeah, I
just
think we.
because
I think it's about time. I think
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's
she
saying
definitely
something.
has
do
a
that.
whole
Make it
voice that
official.
every time I talk,
But
she's right there. But anyway, yeah.
I would say, unfortunately, that imposter syndrome is probably never gonna leave you. Like, there'll be some variation of it. I still deal with it. And I've gotten better about managing it. And it's the whole damp you do, damp you don't. So either I'm going to beat myself up about not doing the thing, or I'm gonna do the thing and then people will try to beat me up for actually doing it. But at least it's done. And imposter syndrome, look, especially for comics, yes, let's take comics serious, but also coming from a job where I actually literally had to make sure I did my job right or somebody's life, hung in the balance of it. This isn't that.
Right.
It is make believe, and we should be having fun with our make believe stories. So that imposter syndrome you're feeling like no, it's like it's make believe. So work past that, and I know that's easier said than done, but like you literally just have to put it out there. And if people boo you, then they boo you, but like at least they have something to boo.
Mm,
Right?
Right. At least you did the
You
thing.
did the thing and, like, you'll hopefully, if you decide to stick around, you'll get better at it, but you just won't come out the gate perfect. I don't think anybody has ever come out the gate perfectly. Maybe there's a couple, but we don't talk about those
Maybe
folks. They're sitting by themselves.
Maybe
Right.
maybe Brad Pitt. I don't know.
They're
yeah.
sitting by themselves.
So, looking ahead, what kind of stories do you still want to tell? I know you said Vixen was one you'd love to write on. What are there any dream projects or characters you're hoping to work with?
Yeah, Big Barda and Mr. Miracle will be at the top echelon of that. I got to
Ooh.
write Barda briefly, in the story that I wrote with Nubia for the Pride anthology, but, like, I love Big Barda and Mr. Miracle, so I would love to write something, either a mini series or whatever with them. Justice League of Antarctica, which is silly, but I discovered how funny they are, for a book that I wrote, where, like, I covered all this well, as many strange and unsung, all stars of the DC multiverse. So like Peacemaker's in it, King Shark,
Nice.
Creature Commandos, all of that. But I want to write some Justice League of Antarctica. Nort is the leader of that team. They get shipped off to Antarctica. Penguins, of course, are what the big bads in that. But I want to do something new. They don't have to go to Antarctica, but I just kind of want to put together this ragtag team, led by Nort. And it's like these failed superheroes slash villains. And then, and then lastly,
That would be iconic.
the other thing that I wanna write, I actually might end up writing that. I'm supposed to get an answer back this week. So,
Oh,
when this podcast episode goes up, I'll send you the little asterisk, like, "Remember that thing I couldn't mention? Well, I'm actually doing it now." So,
Oh, okay.
yes.
yeah.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah. All right. Well, and it's funny you say all those kind of unsung characters. The guy running the DC film universe right now, James Gunn. He
James
loves
Gunn.
those characters.
I know he wrote
He-
the forward for my book before anyone even knew I didn't even know he was gonna be taking over, so it just kinda worked
Oh, how
out.
about that?
So
Yeah.
almost, so like with Kite Man's in that book. Kite Man has his own show. Golden
Oh,
Glider is in
Yeah.
the show with him. She's also in that book.
If
Creature
ever there's a
Commandos, of
show,
course, like they got their
of
own
course.
thing. And
Oh,
like
that's so funny. That's so
yeah,
great.
there's been a
the,
bunch of other characters from this book that are showing up now in the DC
that's fantastic.
movie universe. So James Gunn, if you're
Yeah.
listening to this, let
We'll send
me
it right to him.
yeah, send it
Yeah.
directly
Well,
to him.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll
We're good.
yeah,
I'll DM him.
put this.
Thank you.
What is it? Justice League of Antarctica on coming on.
It might
Max.
be
Yeah.
happening. I have talked to as many editors at DC about this to the point now, like they thought it was a joke, but now they know that I'm serious. So Doc Schneider,
That's funny.
I got
That's
Doc
funny.
on board. He said he would draw it if I ever got a chance to do it. Like, I just want
Oh
to do
my
a one
gosh.
shot. That's all just let me do that, and
That's
I'll leave it
Oh,
alone for a little bit.
I so want this to happen. This whole Justice League of
I think
right.
it's gonna end
of
up
Misfit
happening.
Island, Antarctica. Oh my
I'm
god.
I'm very close. Just one more editor. I gotta like it's like the Pokemon thing where you gotta go through all
You
these
gotta catch 'em
different
all.
gyms. Yeah.
There you go.
So one more.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, I'm so looking forward to
Me
this.
too.
So if people want to follow you, I mentioned already that you have Instagram and Threads and stuff. Tell folks how they can get in touch with you or follow you or find more information about you.
So of course, Instagram Threads, Steph_I_Will. I have a website, whystuff.com. So that's WHYSTEPH.com. I'm on Blue Sky. I don't know what that long handle is, but if you search Stephanie Williams or Steph
There.
Williams, you should find me. I'm pretty sure I've been added to some of the comic starter packs. And
Cool.
don't hold me to this, but by the time you listen to this, dear listeners, I should have a newsletter out. But if I don't, just know procrastination got the best of
For sure.
She said, "Don't
I
come
mean,
for
you
me."
got
That's what she
it.
said.
Yeah.
you've got a lot of important
She's
things to write about Justice League of Antarctica. You've got more newsletters.
your
The
mom.
last thing we expect you to.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That on top of that. And my kid is out of school all this week. So
all week. Oh
yeah, they
man.
get the entire week off. So
All of Thanksgiving. Wow.
yeah, I gotta go
Jeez.
see Wicked, Moana 2, and probably go
Oh,
to the
yeah.
bowling alley. Yeah.
And Gladiator 2 and
Gladiator
Yeah.
2, yeah, it's gonna be a busy week from
There
Mario
you go.
Kart.
I just saw
oh,
Wicked last on Thursday. Is fantastic. It
You
was
know,
we're
so
gonna
that's
good.
see
funny.
it. We're seeing it next week.
Yeah, I am, I don't want to see it. My father started my son on musicals, which is just so
Oh.
random. He took him to see the
Yeah.
Wonka movie last year and then Loud Loud Crocodile, and that's who I
Oh,
should get to
Lyle.
see. Yeah, that's who I should take him to see Wicked. I
Yeah.
said 2 hours
I
and
mean, that
40
works out.
minutes.
Yeah.
It's a long
Yeah.
first
It's long.
half, and
And
that's
it's
the
only
first
the
It's only
first
the
half
first
of
half.
the
Well,
Yeah.
of
Yep.
this, yeah, they're coming out with part 2, and in the musical, part 2 is a shorter one, so I don't know how they're gonna make a whole movie out of it.
I
Yeah.
don't know
And then
either.
Hamilton
Well,
will be back in June.
no. I don't want to. I'm trying to keep him away from
None of
Hamilton.
that.
Listen,
None of that.
I saw it for the first time this summer. I cried literally from start to finish. And
It's
just
He's
phenomenal.
not going to throw away his shot.
yeah, just bring him.
So,
You can't keep him away from Hamilton. That's
You
you
can't.
gotta at least let him.
no, I think a friend of mine is very close to introducing him to Hamilton. I just said, okay, well, if you do that, I'm shipping him off to where you are.
If you do that, you're taking care of him.
Yeah, because only on so many musicals I can go. I can withstand. So yeah, so I'll be seeing Wicked.
Okay.
On the press.
Fine.
That's
So
The
resigned.
deep.
that's the
Well,
best.
I felt.
That's like
so
I think that's a.
I mean,
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
pretty
I felt
sure
that
I'll have
too.
a good time, but it's just I
Yeah.
don't want to be there.
Stephanie, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. And I've been looking forward to this interview, and it's just been a joy to spend time with you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, thank you all again so much for having me.
And that was our interview with Stephanie Williams. We were so excited to have her. She's amazing. We're going to have her back again, especially since I don't know if you noticed, she talked about whenever this episode comes out that she hoped to have a newsletter ready to go. Well, that's available. We're going to have that in the show notes too. You're going to be able to figure out how to go and subscribe to her newsletter. It's awesome. There's 2 of them have come out already. It's a great newsletter. She has lots of cool insights. You're going to love that. You can also follow her on socials, as she said in there, and you can also find the newsletter through that as well. But another cool thing is coming up this month here in Cleveland is Fan Expo. That's March 21st through the 23rd. We're going to be there. Some of us are going to be wandering around, getting some video, interviewing some folks. So we'd love to see you. If you see a World Gone Geek t-shirt, make sure you stop by and say hello. Stephanie is going to be there as well. She's got a booth. Make sure you go there, meet her, get her to sign some comics. Again, you just saw the interview. You can go see her in person right there at Fan Expo. It's going to be a great time. So make sure to go check it out if you're in the area. Want to thank you guys for watching this episode or listening if you're on the podcast. We are so grateful for you guys. If you're not already, if you're new to our podcast, you're hearing this for the first time, make sure you follow us at World Gone Geek, pretty much all the places that are going on right now. So Blue Sky, we've got TikTok, don't post a ton, but we're trying to now. Instagram, Facebook. That's all for this episode. We are so appreciative of you guys. Please follow and subscribe everywhere that you can. We will see you guys next time. Take care.